Dylan, you ready for your first question?
Yes.
This organization has a long and rich history, with each year finding its own definition of Samahan. With an ever-changing community coming in and out of our doors, it can be difficult to understand the priorities and needs of our organization, of our community. In your perspective, what do you believe this organization needs right now, and how would you, as chairperson, work to address those needs for the community you serve?
Thank you for that question. I believe the sentiment isn't just from this year. I believe that the community is ever changing, and past executive boards have been on have had the same discussion. Our community's needs and wants change every single year depending on who's in this space. I think that I want to emphasize that whether you're in this space for one single GBM or whether you keep coming back to this space year after year like I have, I think that in order to know what we need as an organization and how the executive board can support that, I think we just, as executive board members, I think we just need to mingle and communicate and keep ourselves motivated in order to stay in this space alongside our GBMers, because I understand that burnout and not feeling motivated to do the work for this entire year is a common problem that past executive board members have had, but knowing what our organization wants and what our organization needs means that we have to be present. Can you repeat just the question part just once?
Yeah. In your perspective, what do you believe this organization needs right now, and how would you, as chairperson, work to address those needs for the community you serve?
I think that the community and this organization, what it needs right now is what it always has needed, but also a couple of other things. So we've always needed a place where people can feel safe and people can feel like their voice is being listened to. We need a space that no matter where you come from, the majority of us are Filipino in this space, but being able to talk about your culture and your background and being able to share it with the people that you've never met before, I think cultivating that space and being able to say that, hey, I'm proud to be a part of this org because I'm able to step into that space where I can say anything and not be judged. I think something that is specific to this year is that I think that we need to emphasize, I thought that we needed to emphasize a little bit more that it's cool to care about things that you're passionate about. I felt like the energy level was a little bit low as we got through the year, through first semester and then second semester and then up till now, which is like a natural thing. Like our energy isn't unlimited, like we're human, like we need to recharge every now and then, like everyone has a social battery. But I think that as the GBMs went on, as our events went on, when we came into FACN specifically, I kind of saw, there's a specific example of, we were running through Q2Q in P4. It was Phil Grad coming on for the first time. And like granted, like our general body, like their fourth years, like the majority of us are first and second years, like we've almost never interacted with the grads, but I felt that the energy was like super, super dead. And like, I don't know, for me, being here so long and seeing that it is possible to keep that level of energy throughout an entire year, I was just kind of disappointed. So I think that's something I would like to see going forward if I were to be elected chairperson.
Thank you for that response. Are you ready for your next question?
Yes.
Awesome. AB Samahan is commonly known for its events, traditions, and visible impact, but its deeper value lies in the relationships, cultural responsibility, and sense of community it builds. As chairperson, how would you identify aspects of the organization that are often overlooked, and how would you ensure that your leadership improves on these less visible experiences like member experience, internal culture, and sense of belonging that aren't always immediately measurable?
Can you repeat the question part? Just the question part.
Yeah. As chairperson, how would you identify aspects of the organization that are often overlooked, and how would you ensure that your leadership improves on these less visible experiences like member experience, internal culture, and sense of belonging that aren't always immediately measurable?
Thank you for that question. I think the most feasible way to gauge attendance and things being overlooked is obviously our attendance forms and our sign-in forms, and that's how we've always kept track of how many people go to different things, whether it's SOAR board meetings, whether it's FACN workshops, Catalyst workshops, etc., at GBMs. It's very, I think, something I would want to do, and I would ask my support of my top 5 if I were to become chairperson, is taking maybe one day out of every month to kind of analyze the attendance and where it's going. We always see typical patterns, like people come during FG, it kind of dies down after FG, it picks back up again towards HSC, and then it dies towards the start of winter break. Picks back up again during the Kasama program in spring season FAC, and then it kind of just completely dies. I believe that there's a way to break that trend, and I believe there's a way to get people to start going to things more consistently, because attendance has always been a problem, low retention has always been a problem, and I believe the way to do that is just continuing to motivate my executive board to show up so that our general body members show up, because it's really easy for I've talked to a lot of GBMers, and I think it's really easy for them to feel when our executive board members aren't putting in that effort anymore, and I think things get overlooked because our executive board members might not put as much of their time into it as they once did, which is normal. Again, we're students first. We pay our tuition to come here to learn and not to be necessarily part of like cultural organizations, but people do care, and that's why people keep showing up. And I feel like as an executive board, we owe that to our general body members to keep showing up for them, and that's naturally how we will get people to care more, and things that are not necessarily measurable will be able to be measured because people keep showing up when we care.
Thank you for that response. Are you ready for your next question?
Yes.
Throughout the year, it has been known for officers to experience burnout, lose motivation mid-semester, and experience uncertainty in their roles. As chairperson, how would you not only respond to these moments when they arise, but also build a culture within your board that maintains motivation and accountability throughout the year?
Thank you for that question. Being on top 5 this year and talking to a lot of past board members, not just on the Wani board, but Harai and Mayari as well. Again, I've said this in my previous question, burnout is always inevitable. We might step into this space. Many of us are stepping into these leadership roles for the first time. Many of you guys are first years who are running for executive board for the first time. Being in this space for so long, I think the best way for me to relate, and I've found this over the years as I've had these conversations with people, is that the best way for me to relate to them is to put myself back in their shoes, because I was NSR my first year and community my second year, but I didn't really feel like I belonged, even though I've been tenured more than half of the executive board my second year. And I feel like putting myself back into those shoes, being relatable and saying like, hey, like this stuff is normal, like feeling burnt out, feeling like you don't belong, feeling like you're not doing enough as much as other board members is normal. Like that is all normal. I think any professional space you go, I think that is common. And I really think that just being personable and just being there for my executive board members, whenever they need to talk, I plan on utilizing one-on-ones, not necessarily every single month, but relatively frequently throughout each semester, just to check in on them. And I know our board is large, but I feel like it's feasible for me specifically because it's so easy for me to connect with executive board members, especially the ones who are here for the first time. And I would also rely on my top 5 and my students to do that as well, because I know they have that experience, and I know it might be easier for them as well to relate to our board members if they need more assistance.
All right, Dylan, for your last 2 questions. Right, to start off, within the executive board, close working relationships can sometimes lead to personal tensions or conflicts that impact professionalism and productivity. As chairperson, how would you navigate situations where professional conflicts between board members become personal, and how would you maintain a respectful professional environment while still acknowledging the human side of those relationships?
Thank you for that question, and that's a question that's honestly, I think past executive board members can share the sentiment. I feel like it's a question that we've all been trying to answer, how to separate professional and personal. It seems really, really simple in concept, but I think it's hard to implement, especially because we all know each other. Like all of the candidates tonight, and whether or not you guys will be on executive board, the ones who end up being executive board members, like you guys all have interacted with each other. So you all have that pre-existing relationship, and now you're entering into the professional. It's really hard to separate. I've had so many of these conversations where it's like conflicts with another board member, and it just ends up being like bringing the outside into just like Samahan stuff, which doesn't really lead to anywhere. It's gonna happen. I feel like trying to completely be unbiased and completely look at things from an organizational standpoint, especially when you have that personal bias, is so hard. But I think the best thing I can do as the chairperson is hearing both sides out, or however many sides are in the conflict, and trying to reach a compromise. Because if I, as the chairperson, approach a situation between two board members that is obviously going off the rails, if I approach it as trying to get somebody a win, like one or the other a win, it's not gonna work. And it will lead to more tension, and I feel like it will lead to resentment, and that's not what I want on my executive board. What I want is for both of those people to feel like they come out of the conversation feeling satisfied and feeling like they can both accommodate to the other person who they have a conflict with, but also feel like they're also getting something out of it. Again, personal relationships, they can't be removed, but I believe that my job as chairperson and our job as top 5 is to kind of mitigate that personal, professional strain.
All right, and for your last question, as chairperson, you are often expected to provide consistent emotional, mental, and organizational support to your executive board, while often receiving less support in return. How would you manage the emotional and leadership demands of that dynamic in a way that prevents burnout? And what approach would you take to ensure your leadership remains sustainable throughout your term?
Thank you for that question, Frios. The idea that you presented that question, I kind of centered my speech around not getting what I give back, especially in this organization. I'm used to that sentiment. I'm not saying that it's good to have that sentiment, because if I had it another way, then I would hopefully get the things back that I give in this organization. But I believe that as chairperson, especially in this role of leadership where I'm expected to be the face of the organization and carry that legacy and expect to know the answers to everybody's questions, I feel like the best thing that I can do in times where my leadership is starting to get strained, in times where I'm not feeling 100%, I think the best thing that I can do is to admit to the people around me who I trust, like my top 5, like my student advisors, like, hey, I'm not there right now, and I might need people to help me meet me where I'm at. I feel like in that sense, as I'm serving my top 5 and as I'm serving my student advisors, meeting them where they are early in the year, and as we get to that burnout period, I feel like we all feel that. And I feel like the only way I can get through that, and the rest of executive board can get through that, is by holding each other up and supporting each other. It does no good for people to bring each other down and just honestly give up midway through the year. That really doesn't reflect why we are on executive board to begin with, because we're making a year-long commitment, and I expect all of my executive board members to honor that. But we're not machines, we're not robots, we're humans, and we naturally feel that burnout. So in times where I need that support, I would rely on my board, and in times when they needed that support, I would expect them and hope that they could rely on me in that way as well. Thank you.